Hey folks, Dr. Bob McCauley, and let's discuss the differences between sunlight-grown chlorella and fermented chlorella. The people that have fermented chlorella tell you, hey, it's just as good. As a matter of fact, oh, it's grown under these incredibly careful conditions, so it's a better product. Well, let's look at it point to point and see what we come up with. Sunlight grown is all natural. It's grown in sunlight. Natural sunlight takes about 90 days to grow that. And fermented chlorella really attempts to circumvent nature. Sunlight grown chlorella has been growing the way it has been for billions of years now. Is really the first food on the planet. Fermented chlorella, well, they started doing that around 2007, so not quite as much history there. To get at the nutrients in the chlorella cell inside it, you need to crack the cell open. And it's called cracked cell or cracked wall or broken wall chlorella. It's really the only kind of chlorella that's allowed to be sold here in the United States by FDA. So that's FDA rule. And so there's two different methods. Pressure release, you build up the pressure, release it suddenly, that cracks the cell. Now there's dynamill, where these little glass beads tumble around in a big tank. Okay, that's sunlight grown. Fermented, they don't crack it open. There are many different types of chlorella species, but the healthiest one, there's really two really kind of really good strains of chlorella called Chlorella sorokiniana, and the other one's vulgaris, and those are the two that you'll find in sunlight grown chlorella. The species that is used in fermented chlorella, well, not quite sure what that is. Some people say maybe vulgaris, but kind of hard to really find out. If you find out, let me know, because I did a lot of research and I couldn't figure it out at all. Now, how does it make you feel when you take chlorella? Well, sunlight grown chlorella makes you feel great, makes you feel fantastic. And I take a lot of fermented, and it doesn't really give you that great energized feeling that regular sunlight chlorella grows. That's been my experience. The taste of sunlight grown chlorella is, fresh and natural. Chlorella has, it's got a huge amount of chlorophyll in it, so it's kind of a grassy taste. And I gotta tell you right now, fermented, that's not the same taste. And if you think so, well, that's subjective, but I've never had anybody say, yeah, this tastes the same, or it's just as good or whatever. It doesn't really have the the really fresh, grassy taste that chlorella has. Sunlight-grown chlorella is not exposed to high temperatures. You don't want to ever cook anything because you sort of cook the nutrients out of it. So the highest temperature sunlight-grown chlorella is exposed to is 105 degrees during the spraying process. And the spray drying process is what turns it from a wet cake into a powder. However, fermented chlorella, they boil it. They boil it at well over 100 degrees Celsius, and it's boiled for a few hours. And, that softens it up, it disinfects it, but, you really break down the nutrients when you do that. So I'll take the 105 degrees. Thanks very much. Another reason they boil it, the fermented chlorella, is because they have to get rid of something called the 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐈𝐒. Now, 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐈𝐒, it's a derivative of chlorophyll, and if you don't control it properly and keep the levels really low, you'll get like an itchy skin. Well, people, before they started really boiling it, the fermented, then people would you get out into the sunlight, and pretty soon you'd get these welts, and it really becomes bad. It's a very serious condition, and it really hurt the chlorella market in the early days of it back in the 1980s when they didn't know how to control 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐈𝐒 properly. People were getting skin rashes. They said, well, don't take chlorella, it'll give you skin rash. Well, you just have to control the 𝐕𝐈𝐃𝐈𝐒, which is what they do in the spray drying process with natural sunlight grown chlorella, and that's why they boil it with the fermented kind. Last but not least, sunlight grown chlorella spends its entire life being grown in the sunlight, other than at night, but of course it's outside, so we have natural conditions. Fermented chlorella never sees the light of day. So here's something that is completely unnatural, which is fermented chlorella. Now, why do they ferment it? Because it's cheap.
It's very, very cheap to produce. But there's these questions like what ingredients are they using in it to produce it? I can give you the ingredients of sunlight-grown chlorella, and there's just really 4 what they call ingredients or inputs. But what are the ingredients that go into fermented chlorella? Well, they don't tell you. It's a little bit of a secret. The entire process is a little bit of a secret. I've researched it and researched it and researched it. You can barely find pictures of any of the fermentation tanks. So the idea of fermenting chlorella, because for any other reason than you want to grow it very cheaply, is just, there is no other reason. You just want to save money. And again, is there anything wrong with fermented chlorella? No, there's nothing wrong with it. Not going to hurt you. Not a bad product. You know, I would take it if I couldn't get sunlight-grown chlorella. But sunlight-grown chlorella, the real thing, the rich, dark taste of color and the great taste, the rich taste of chlorella, just isn't there with the fermented kind. So if you really want the best thing, you want something that's completely natural, okay, sunlight-grown chlorella, it's the only way to go. And one quick note, will they ever ferment spirulina? No, they won't. They can't. Spirulina is not an algae. Spirulina is a cyanobacteria. So trying to ferment that just ain't going to work, okay? And that's why you don't see it on the market, and you never will. But fermented chlorella, for my money, stay away from it, folks. It's not worth it. I'm Dr. Bob McCauley. See you next time.